As journalists and television hosts, scripts are a lifeline. Each newscast, each story, it all revolves around a script.
But now it's time to go unscripted. That means we're not just going off script, we're throwing out the script altogether.
Each week, we're joined by fellow Farm Journal hosts and editors to peel back the layers on stories we've shared throughout the week.
Unscripted. It's real, it's raw, it's entertaining, and it's your chance to meet the personalities behind the personalities. I'm Tyne Morgan.
And I'm Clinton Griffiths. Welcome to Unscripted.
Hey there, everyone. Another edition of Unscripted. I am Tyne Morgan.
And I'm Clinton Griffiths, and we are excited to make it up as we go today, Tyne. Why not?
Always. And I have a little bit different backdrop. I was at World Pork Expo this week, so I'm actually doing the show
in God's country.
From home.
Yeah.
And Clinton, I will say, I prefer to work at the office because for some reason, James thinks we're hanging meat in this place, and it is freezing. So I prefer to be in the office.
It's officially Women's Winter. Maybe people don't know what that term is. For folks that don't know, it's how whenever we turn on the AC, it gets down to like 65 degrees. And Marge and Sierra and a couple people we work with here, they're always like, it is freezing cold in here. So they run a heater next to their desk in the heart of the summer because obviously it's cold.
That's what I need to do. I need to get a heater because I think it's 55 degrees in here. Like, I do not understand why it is so flipping cold. But anyway,
that's right.
Doing the show from home because I had a good week at World Pork Expo. Clinton,
did you get any good food though? That was always my favorite part of World Pork Expo. You get some pretty good food while you're there. Not too bad. Do you have time to eat?
Does a bear crap in the woods? Yes, of course. I got good food. It is World Pork Expo.
Of course. What's your favorite go-to? Do you have a favorite go-to pork plate? I'm a classic ribs guy. I like the ribs.
No.
I'm pretty uncomplicated that way.
I'm a pork chop. And in fact, we ran out of beef in our freezer, but we had recently butchered a hog. And so we have, tons of pork in the freezer. And so we eat pork chops at least a couple times a week.
Awesome.
Pork burgers, brats. We are big right now because that's what's in the freezer. And I love a good pork chop, but food. So if I take a trip,
yes, go.
It all centers around how good the food was. Like you asked me, how was such and such? Well, it depends on what I ate, right?
Sure.
Apparently, my youngest is the same way. They started basketball camp this week. First ever basketball camp outside of our hometown. So I pick them up the first day. It's at a university that's like 30 minutes away, a private college. I picked them up and I said, how was it? And Kimbrel said, college is awesome. I said, really? Why is college awesome? She goes, the buffet was amazing.
Oh, so they had a buffet.
Yeah, they had a first experience in the dining hall, Clinton.
Yes.
Apparently they had cereal, pizza, salad and fruit, cookies, ice cream. It was endless. And so it's just funny because I told her, I said, well, I'm headed to Pork Expo and I can tell you the food's going to be amazing there too.
You know what? When I was in college at Oklahoma State, they specialized in every meal you could get a chicken fried steak with white gravy. And so that was like, no matter what time of day, no matter when you were eating there, at every meal they had chicken fried steak and gravy, which made it hard to compete. Yeah, made it hard to compete with the freshman 15, but whatever, it's fine. It's fine.
So Oklahoma.
So young.
You know who else probably loves a chicken fried steak?
Oh, I bet I know. I bet our guest today loves a chicken fried steak.
And he is back by popular demand, Clinton Griffiths. So let's welcome to the program this week, our own Chris Bennett.
Tyne Clinton, good morning. I'm tickled to be on here with y'all and give me my catfish and get that chicken fried steak out of the way.
Yeah. Okay.
See, I knew he'd be a fan. We were talking his love language there, Clinton.
Well, catfish pretty good. You can't hardly go wrong with that. But do you have a favorite pork cut? Are you ribs, or you a pulled pork sandwich? What do you like?
I'm the cheapest I can get on the aisle, slap it on the grill because it doesn't matter your skill level, it never burns. So I can keep my family pretty dang happy, keep them smiling.
Yeah, absolutely. For real. Well, Chris, I know you've rolled out some interesting stories in the last couple of weeks, and you've got a few in the hopper. And of course, we're going to get to all of that, but let's kick it off with a little talking tea.
Talking tea. You know what the term spilling the tea means? Well, that is exactly what we do with our segment every week with Talking Tea. And Chris, you always have a lot of tea. I mean, you have some pretty viral stories that are posted on AgWeb. And last time you were on, you talked about that. But the amount of stories that you have that aren't even put pen to paper just yet are amazing as well. So I'm excited for Talking Tea with you this week.
Hey, Tyne, listen, I'm like a bulldog on a bone on the story out of Missouri right now. I believe it's one of the most fascinating stories in agriculture history. Happened in 1981. And if you're younger than that, you may not remember a gentleman named Wayne Kreitz. Wayne Kreitz and his fistful of soybeans. Kreitz essentially stole his own beans, 30,000 bushels. Elevator went bankrupt. And so he went in there against a federal order and stole his own beans, got into it with the government. You might even call it the original deep state brouhaha. And Kreitz ended up going on trial basically 3 times. The jury found him innocent every time, really through a process of jury nullification. It's a wild tale full of dog legs, full of curveballs. Kreitz is a character pulled out of fiction. He's got a wonderful, sonorous voice, very unique accent, looks a little bit like the country star Bobby Bear. And when you got a story that's not only good on its face, but like I said, is filled with dog legs, everything from Dukes of Hazzard to Bill Clinton's sexcapades. It's quite a spectrum there. When you've got those dog legs, then you have the A to Z ingredients for something that potentially can be gripping. Let me give you an example there. You know the old tale about the 7-year-old boy and 7-year-old girl on the playground? And she has the box of marbles and he has the box of chocolates. Excuse me, he's got the marbles and she's got the chocolates. And she's
that makes
sitting
sense.
there eating the chocolates, right? And he asks, hey, I'll trade you straight up. All right, I'll trade you. I'll give you my marbles for your chocolates. And she looks at him, right? And he's got those delectable chocolates that he's eating. She thinks about it. She agrees. And he instantly races home. He doesn't give her the marbles. He races home and he takes out his best shooters. He takes out his best marbles out of the box, races back to the playground and gives that box of marbles to her. And she hands him the chocolates and he runs back home. And he does what every kid does, which is he got on his bed and he ate those chocolates one by one, opened each wrapper. And boy, he ate them down to the last one right there. And that night, when the little boy goes to bed, he's torn, right? He's torn. He's rolling back and forth between the covers, tormented in his spirit, tormented in his soul. Why? Because he has one question that he's asking himself, and that is, when I went and took the marbles out of the box at my house, did she do the same with the chocolates? So when you get a tale like that, right, you can twist it, and you see that when someone's describing what happened again in the Wayne Kreitz fistful of soybean story. And again, that goes to all layers of agriculture. I'm very excited about the Kreitz story and a whole bunch of others.
Okay, Chris, give us a little hint here. What was the biggest G-rated curveball that you discovered? Okay, even though this is unscripted, we need to keep it G-rated. But what was the biggest curveball? Give us a hint.
Oh, it's 19. I believe it's 81. I'm not sure. Maybe he goes to trial in 82, but it's early 80s. Clinton's not the governor. Clinton's in between, right? So I think Clinton is preparing to run again, if I remember that right. And Kreitz, being from Southeast Missouri, doesn't know all of the inner details of what's going on with Bill Clinton, because Bill Clinton, by that time, has hosts, right, of affairs on the side. And so when Kreitz is put into jail in Northwest Arkansas and later in Little Rock as well, he becomes, of course, friends with the guards, some of the federal marshals and so on, and they allow him out of his cell, and he essentially goes into their office, their holding room, their coffee room with them. And these tales about Bill Clinton And his sexcapades then began to spill out. Excelsior Hotel, elevator, the rooms, countless amounts of people. And of course, it all foreshadowed what was to come later. But when you take that, you take Kreitz's testimony, right? If you would have heard his testimony in 81 when he was on trial about what he was seeing, no one would have believed him, or they would have, told him politely, don't mention that. Years later, when he says these kind of things, it's quite obvious he's telling the truth, and very absolutely fascinating. And when he was going into the Ristine elevator there in the boot hill to steal his own soybeans, again, I think it was something like 32,000 bushels. They were going to roll in there with 77, 78 trucks. Anyhow, when he's going in there, the FBI talks him into, hey, settle down, come to our office here. They set up an office inside the Ristine elevator and talk to us. And he was that moment where he was going to cross the Rubicon. They had him in the back office in there. And they said, Wayne, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? They were doing their best to talk him down. And his response, ultimately, to the FBI, right? To the FBI, the top agent was, have you ever seen the Dukes of Hazzard? I may start the story right there. So he was telling him, right? He's telling him, I'm fixing to bow. I'm fixing to Luke, y'all. Fixing to Uncle Jesse, y'all. I'm fixing to ramp the General Lee. And when you take all those ingredients and you mix those in, and there's a heck of a lot more besides that, it's quite fascinating. No, it's beyond fascinating. And again, I think someday it'll be a movie. I hope they make a movie about Wayne Kreitz before he passes. But this is the kind of thing that Hollywood misses on. But there it is.
And you believe him?
Wild story.
Chris, sometimes you interview some of these con artists, they open up to you, and I'm always amazed by this. So how do you know what to believe and what to
That's
not
a great
believe?
question. That's a great question, right? So when I was a reporter in Wichita, Kansas, I had a guy write to the news station saying that he had information about the JFK assassination. And you get all kinds of crazy letters, right? As a news reporter, you never know what you're going to get. You get something wild and there's some sort of lead and nobody else wanted to touch it. And I'm always like, well, I'll listen. Like, what's the harm in listen? You know what I mean? Like, I'll listen. And so I'd said, okay, well, I'll meet you. And now, mind you, this gentleman's probably like 70, 75. And so I made a photographer go with me. So we show up, we meet this guy. He's got on a leather bomber jacket. Like it's like got fur around the collar, like the old school, like tough guy. He has all his old rings on, and I mean, he's in his 70s now. Right. And so he's like, come down to the basement. We'll talk. And so I spent 2 hours listening to this guy tell me about all of these twists and turns and the connection of the Teamsters and JFK and on and on and on. It's a fascinating tale. I won't get into all of the details of it, but Chris, I'm like you, when you interview enough people, you start to spot whether or not they're just feeding you a line, right? So after a while, you kind of get to the point where you're like, nah, this guy's full of beans, right? That's not really true. I believed every word that guy told me. He was convicted, and I'm telling you, if he was lying, he believed every word. Because it was a fascinating tale, and he told it colorfully with too many details. Wow. It was super interesting. So I know what you're saying whenever you talk to these characters. Like once in a while, you get that feeling like, oh my gosh, this sounds outlandish. There's no way this can be true. But at the same time, you're talking to them, and they believe every word. And I mean, Tyne, you've talked to so many people. You start to get a feel for what you're hearing and whether or not it's true or not true.
Hey, remember what Chris told us last time?
What he told us a lot of things last time.
He did. He also told us crazy draws crazy. So no, I don't know any of those experiences because there's no crazy. I'm not crazy enough to draw those types of people. So I just want to point that out. No, okay, but Chris, has anyone ever got you hook, line, and sinker? Like somebody told you something, you believed it, but then when you went out and interviewed them, you're like, no, this isn't adding up.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, I remember people floating stories. Hey, the herbicide that we're spraying in Kansas is, producing deer with two or something like that, and you get pulled in a little bit and you think, oh man, there was a guy, Tyne,
just so people know, this is unscripted.
There was a guy
What is
We
that
say
example,
unscripted, but
Chris?
I'm
Oh my
thinking we're
gosh.
going to have to edit this. Anyway, go ahead, Chris.
there was a guy about 10 years ago, and he hollers at me and he calls me on the phone, right? He was I'm just going to say, he was from a county in Mississippi. Let me put this, Mississippi. And he told me straight up, right, that he had psychic ability, that the Lord had blessed him with ability, and that he was working for several farmers and he was boosting their yields, and he was going to their turn rows and he was laying hands on their field psychically. In other words, he would extend his hand and he was shooting power into the fields. This guy was highly reputable, right? So I knew who this guy was. He wasn't a nut. He genuinely believed it and so on. So I said to him, what kind of fields are you on? He said, he told me so far had only been on soybean fields. And I said, all right, look, I do want to do this story with you. I said, but what I'm going to have, I said, if you will give me the farmers that you're working with, and they will simply testify that their yields have boosted since you have been laying hands on the field, I'll go with it. I'll just tell the readers this is what y'all are claiming, but I can't do it anonymously with these growers. And that's where the disconnect was. I could not get the growers to jump in, but this guy genuinely was going onto the turn rows and casting his power out there. So it's very fascinating.
Did he just so happen to have some fertilizer on his hands when he touched those fields? I'm just
Yeah.
wanting to know,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, personally, of course, I don't buy it any further than I can throw it, but I was going to do the story based on his personal belief, because you can imagine
He was
people
convicted
would
by it,
read
right?
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, interesting.
well, I think that is a perfect segue to our next segment.
It's a perfect segue.
What the Sigma? I'm still laughing. Okay, what the Sigma? In case you're not up on the terminology, Chris, you have kids. How old are your kiddos?
Oh shoot! You 20 and 18. No,
Okay,
20 and 18. They're gonna kill me.
They may be above the this lingo, but Chris, we've learned a lot of this lingo from Clinton because he is high schooler, he is middle schooler. So my girls aren't at this age yet, but I am earning some street cred when I go, when I'm at some of the high school games and stuff by using some of the lingo that Clinton teaches me. But it's what the Sigma, okay? So it's like, what the heck? What's the craziest headline you've read or written this week? Okay, that is what the Sigma is.
I'm going to start. Okay. Craziest headline I've seen, or I didn't write this yet, was a story about giant venomous flying spiders with 4-inch legs that they are afraid it's an invasive species. They're afraid it's going to spread across the East Coast.
I'm out.
And they fly and they're like huge, Chris. And I know, Chris, you like creepy crawlies. I do not. I'm not a big fan. But this seemed like the craziest, giant, crazy story. I was trying to see. I was going to look and see. Like,
wait, hold up, Chris. You like spider? Like, is that an Arkansas thing?
No, I mean, actually, insects is definitely not. But I am quite taken by snakes. I think if my family would have been geared different, I'd have been handling them in church. I'd have run up and grabbed them. Can't help it, right? I'm gone. Woo, yeah.
Hey, now, if you haven't read the story about Chris, where he talked about the guy that was milking rattlesnakes. Well, the rattlesnakes?
Rattlesnakes. Oh, yeah. It was cottonmouths, right? It was cottonmouths.
Yeah.
In Carolina. Yeah, it was cottonmouths in Carolina.
Selling the venom.
Yeah.
I can't. I pulled up in the driveway, Chris, the other day, and I saw a snake. So I did what any good person would do. I tried to run over it several times. I don't think I succeeded. And so I'm in the car and I texted James and I said, there's a snake out here. Come get it. And then he didn't write back. And I said, will you please save me? And then he didn't write back, and it had been a little bit. And I said, are you wanting me to die? Will you please come out here and find this snake?
Tyne, don't worry. It probably got up inside your car. It'll just
Stop.
come out through the venting
Stop.
eventually.
Stop.
It'll
Well,
just
good
come
thing
out.
I was in- good-
While you're driving, it'll come right out into the cab. It'll be fine.
Good thing I was in a rental car at the time. So somebody's going to have a pleasant surprise when they go to Enterprise this week, if that's the case.
No, so these spiders, all right, peer-reviewed study published last October by invasive species expert David Coyle found that the invasive species here to stay, they're native to Asia, were introduced to North Georgia around 2010, Chris. And the study said they're continuing to spread. They think they could spread as far north as New York. They thought maybe in 2022, but they haven't found them there yet. But every year or so, they come back with this story of these giant venomous spiders that fly. So,
Every year. So I'm not going to put any stock into it. It's just like saying this is the next pandemic.
Listen, this could be the year you find them in Missouri, Tyne. You never know.
Listen,
Anyway, that's my What the Sigma headline for this week.
As long as I don't come in contact with any of those ticks that cause me to be allergic to red meat, I'm okay.
Dude, 100% on that. I'm more worried about that than I think most things in the world, because I think that would be a terrible travesty.
Awful.
The Lone Star tick.
The headline I saw was an old headline, but it was updated and absolutely caught me. I think it goes back to roughly 2020, 2021, and it was about the Kentucky hoard. Kentucky hoard was there was 700 or was it 800? And it was a lot of coins, 700, 800 gold coins found in that cornfield in an undisclosed location.
You said hoard, right?
Right.
Go on.
Yeah. And I don't know, it was valued at $1 million, $2 million. Anyway, he still is anonymous, but he did speak to the press and explained how he had found it off season. He was out there looking in his fields, and a few of the coins were damaged by tillage, but the rest of them were pretty much in somewhat mint condition. There's all kind of debates about why they were buried out in his field in Kentucky, but it certainly got me excited. Any of that kind of thing always gets us all excited. And I'll tell you something, there was another one. I did a shed story the other day or other month about people going on to other people's land and stealing their deer sheds. Very, very common in some places. But there was a story, I don't know what the thing was, Wyoming Daily or something like that. They were talking about people in Casper that they have a problem in the city with people going into each other's neighborhoods, right? In front of each other's house and stealing their sheds. And, for example, if you put a row of sheds out in your garden, something like that, people were getting caught on Ring camera at 2 a.m, 3 a.m, 4 a.m, like that, stealing each other's sheds. And I don't know if they were taking them to sell or if they were taking them, to give to their dogs to chew on. But dang, I mean, if you can't.
What's a shed go for? Chris, what's a shed go for right now?
I read somewhere, and this is not, I may be talking out of my, but I think it was something like $20 a pound for elk. But I don't know that. That's just me talking. So
interesting.
This is why I don't live in town, Chris. This is why I don't live in town.
Don't steal your sheds. What's up?
Yeah.
Tyne, what the Sigma headline this week?
Well, I texted it to you earlier this week because it's a very Chris story. More than 10,000 human remains found on a suspected serial killer's farm. And this is in Indiana, Clinton, your backyard. Not
my backyard. First of all, not my backyard.
I hope. So authorities in Indiana, they're continuing to identify human remains found at an alleged serial killer's property years after his death. He's accused of luring young men to his home in the 1980s and 1990s and murdering them. It's an 18-acre property, though.
First of all, let's go. Can we call that a farm? I mean, I guess it technically could be a farm, but it's not a traditional farm that we would normally say this is a farm.
Oh, really? Well, I think according to USDA, 18 acres.
Well, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. We have 20 acres here. You saying ours doesn't qualify as a farm? I'm going to let James know you said that.
It qualifies as a farm 100%, but it's not like it was like a 2,000 acre farm where he's burying guys in the back of the woods. You know what I'm saying?
No. But what makes, on
allegedly,
18 acres,
allegedly.
10,000 human remains on 18 acres. I mean, did he map that out? Know where the other bone? I mean,
10,000. I mean, are we sure this wasn't like an ancient village? Like, that's a lot of people. That's disturbing on its face to have that many people across one property by itself.
Well, it's 10,000 human remains. I mean, I think that's different bones and not, I don't think that's actual people, but still, who does that?
What the Sigma?
What
Crazy.
the Sigma?
Dude, that's a crazy headline. That's
It
a
does
crazy.
worry, Chris, it does worry me when you go out on some of these crazy stories that you're not going to make it back. And you've said before, like, if you don't hear from me, you know where I am.
Hey,
But
you
come
know,
find me.
what you just said reminds me of that case in Ohio, which was about 13, 14 years ago. And
Mm.
that's what the fellow was putting out for a farm manager. You know, he was going online requesting a farm manager. And when these people would show up for the job, he put a bullet in the back of their head and bury him out there. And I believe they caught him after his fourth or third killing. You got to ask, how far was he going to go if they hadn't caught him? So yeah, those stories, unfortunately, they sure are out there.
Yeah.
You know, I lost the story. I was very disappointed to lose this. Certainly didn't blame the farmer, but there was a farmer in an undisclosed state, Clinton. I told you about this. I waited 3 or 4 years to see if I could get this guy on the line. He was out spraying corn one morning and saw smoke in the distance, but he wasn't confident that it was smoke. He wasn't sure if it was a spray from a broken irrigation line. It was one
I
of those.
remember this story. It's a good one. Keep
I
going, Chris.
don't. So I'm
Oh, it's
hooked.
a good one.
I'm
He
hooked.
drove in his sprayer toward this mist white. You know, it's white on blue. And he's heading that way. You can imagine those, right angles, turn, all that kind of thing. And when he gets there, he realizes it's not coming from his corn, right? It's not coming from the field. The smoke, and it was smoke, is actually coming from the ditch. So he gets down and he walks in the ditch. And the ditch had something like waist high, knee high to waist high grass. And he was fording it as he was going in with his hands. And when he got to the smoke spot, he pushed that grass back and he recoiled because he was looking at that very distinct white flesh. Maybe in his heart he hoped he was looking at a hog, but he knew, in his head that no. So he's looking at the nude body of a woman that's been set on fire. She's dead. She's smoking. She's in his ditch. And he crawls up on top of his sprayer to holler at the sheriff, "Come on, son, get out here." I think he crawled up on the sprayer to get a better signal, but I'm not positive about that. He was also, I imagine he was crawling up on the sprayer to make sure that he didn't put any more footprints down and mess up the scene. So the sheriff's on the way, and as the sheriff is approaching, a different vehicle, a vehicle he recognizes, pulls up. It's a pickup truck, one of his workers, and he sees the guy and says, "Hey man, don't stop. Step, keep going. Just keep going. This is a scene you don't want," because he didn't want the guy to mess up the scene. And the guy stops and gets out of his vehicle. And he's sitting there looking at the farmer on the sprayer, and he's looking at the ditch back and forth, back and forth. The guy who stopped was the killer. He was coming back to check on the body. Anyway, the guy in the truck got away. And if I remember right, the killer, they had a trailer set up not far from there, and he had beat this young lady to death with his fists in the trailer, took her out, throwing her in the ditch, set her on fire. And I think he ended up with life in prison or something like that. But certainly it was a little numbing. The farmer didn't want to go on record with the story, and I sure didn't blame him. But I did ask. So there it is.
And he was coming back to the scene, and the guy didn't know it at the time, right? He didn't know that he was the one responsible, right?
Right. I mean,
but then he figured it out, and it was the sheriff pulling up behind him that kind of got that guy to get in his car and go on.
I believe that's right. I may have a tiny bit of that chronology wrong, but I'm ballpark Clinton. And so my speculation always was that when the killer is looking into the ditch and looking at the farmer, he's probably contemplating, do I need to put him in the ground as well? So yeah, there's a whole lot of angles there. Look, everyone knows it's part of the strange brew of farmland is that you may find a burned out vehicle. You may find a container load of trash in your rows. The things that people find in the
But
rows.
not a dead body, Chris.
Yeah,
Not
maybe,
a dead
right,
body.
right. Maybe a naked crackhead running through your rows, but not an actual dead body. So
I was going to say a bear, but okay. Sure, we'll go with that.
listen,
bear.
it can always depend
When I,
on the
hey,
head.
when I was in Kansas again, down in Wichita, I had to go south, and there was a call, and it was like a real rural area in a pasture, like a cow pasture, and there was just a burned out car there, and they don't know where it came from, who was responsible, what was inside. I mean, these things they happen, and I bet if we asked, we could get 1,000 comments from people
sure. Like,
that would tell us, "Oh yeah, I
you
found this
can
or I
do
found
that.
that."
I think on social media there was it was like show the craziest, what's the craziest thing you've ever found
Oh, those are always my favorite.
in your field. Yeah. But Chris, here we don't dump them in a farm field. We got the Missouri River. So they just dump them in there.
Gee,
I remember, I'm
This
not
has gone
positive about
off
this, y'all. I
the
think I'm right about this. Years ago in Afghanistan and all those poppy fields, and all those poppy fields in Afghanistan, they would have thieves come in to steal some of the product. And I don't know at what point in the crop this was possible, but I read, I'm just telling you what I read here, right? Someone can fact check me on this. And they'd have fellas get naked, right? Just buck naked and run through those fields, right? You run through the fields in summertime. And what happens is you are collecting that pollen and paste on your body. And then they scrape it off of their skin.
Oh, come on.
And then actually sell the heroin. Now, I don't know if that's true, but can you imagine, right? Can you imagine? It's absolutely
Oh, this
fascinating.
is going to be on the next season of Ozark. I'm for sure.
Yeah. I mean, somebody should try it.
Jason Bateman cutting through a poppy field so he can sell it on the black market. Come on now.
Listen,
Here we
maybe
go.
we have our next idea for a field day.
All right. Hey, as if this wasn't good enough, let's talk TMI. Can't believe this just happened, like that conversation. TMI can't believe this happened. Anything.
I can't believe this whole conversation happened, actually, but let's carry on.
Carry on. So this is kind of a segment where we talk about anything that's funny or interesting or unique that you've seen this week. Tyne, for me, it was the fact that down in Brazil, there's a cow that they say is worth $4 million.
Wow.
It's kind of an anomaly. It's kind of a first of the breed, kind of this cow, like the conformation, her
Like how
fertility,
quickly
her
she grew.
size.
Right? How
What's
quickly
that?
she grew, her muscle mass, like it was all of that kind of
Yeah.
went into it.
And so they're like flushing her and then, starting to work on, spreading the genetics out through the herd. And they're just saying like, she's so different and unique from all the other in the breed that this is the direction the entire industry is going to go. And so, I mean, hot. This cow is hot. So they say she's worth $4 million.
Good night.
Anyway, I thought that was TMI. Can't believe that. That's crazy.
Good night, man. I was looking up some ag entrepreneur story and always finding good side stream stuff on those kind of topics. I love old stories like Charles Goodyear and his discovery of rubber that turned the agriculture industry, all those kind of things. And I came across a couple of weeks ago, I came across Johnny Russo's tale. And it's not ag related, but it fit that scene. Johnny Russo is the guy that played Carlo Rizzi in The Godfather. So the original Godfather movie, Carlo Rizzi marries the Godfather's daughter at the beginning of the movie, that wedding scene. That's Johnny Russo. And Johnny Russo had polio as a child there in New York City. He got put in one of those wards for a long time and got out when he was, I think, 11 or 12. He had a gimp. His left side was crippled up. It was improving, but he had this gimp, needed something to do. So Russo went and walked into this store where there was a couple of these I think they were Jewish stationery dealer or something like that. And he told them, hey, if y'all give me some ballpoint pens, I'll sell them on the street. This is early 1950s. I'll sell them on the street and I'll split the money with y'all. Ballpoint pen at that time was still all the rage. And so Russo, emphasized his gimp, like exaggerated it, and went into stores and banks and so on, and began to sell all these ballpoint pens, erasers, and so on, and made really well as a little kid. But eventually, all of the places that bought from him, he couldn't sell them, they had too many. So he went uptown, and he went to this hotel, and they let Russo, right? He's 12 years old. They let him stand outside with his pens and sell them to people coming in and out. And there was this fella in a really sharp suit that used to go in and out of the building all the time. And he got a couple of stiffs or a couple of heavies with him. And this guy used to come up and give him a buck and take a pen, or give him a $5 and take a pen. Incredible amounts of money back in the 50s. And he would touch Russo on the shoulder and give him a $5, give him a $1, sometimes take a pen, sometimes not. And then he would go in the hotel. And so Russo come to find out that this guy is Frank Costello, one of the most famous gangsters in American history. And so Russo is one day inside this joint, this Catholic store where they sell these different kind of medallions, and they have a new medallion in there, and it's a hunchback. This medallion has a hunchback on there. And he asked the owner, what's this new one? And the guy says, man, that's what the Sicilians wear. The Sicilians like that one. And they believe if you touch a cripple, you get their luck. And so the wheels are turning in Russo's head. He thinks this Costello loves him. So he asks around, is this Costello guy Sicilian? That's an Irish name. And he finds out, right? No, Costello changed his name. He's totally Sicilian. Costello's not his real name. And so he freaks out. And Russo, as a little boy, right, as a little 12-year-old boy, goes and buys a rabbit's foot. He gets a chartreuse, some ridiculous color, the biggest one he can find, and he puts it into his pocket. And he waits for Costello to come. And Costello comes one day, reaches down, tries to touch him on the shoulder. And when he does so, Russo pulls his shoulder back. And Costello says, man, what's wrong with you? And Russo says, I know what you've been doing for all these months. I know you've come to steal my luck every time. And Costello begins to stutter because he realizes this kid knows exactly what's going on. And so Russo pulls the rabbit's foot out of his pocket, and he says, hey, next time you need some luck, why don't you stick this up your keister? And he says that to Costello, so he doesn't say keister. And Costello basically on the spot then hires Johnny Russo. And the rest is history. And it really struck me, that story did, because in these agriculture threads, in these agriculture entrepreneurial threads, you see those same hinge moments where discoveries are made, where innovations take place, and they didn't have to. You could have gone the other way. So that story really pulled me in. I love the Johnny Russo tale.
Is that real?
Yeah, he really is the guy. When you see The Godfather, the guy at the beginning that marries the Godfather's daughter, the guy who then is, I think, Michael puts him down, right? Because Michael Corleone eventually kills him. So yeah, he's still alive, old Johnny Russo. I don't know, 90, 85, still out there somewhere.
He's got that luck.
I can't.
He kept his luck all those years.
I can't. I mean, I don't mind. Mine TMI doesn't.
I thought you were going to tell a story about rabbits. Like I thought this was going like we're going to find out about rabbits' feet, and like there's a side business that somebody is like making money selling rabbits' feet or something like that.
The whole time I'm like, is this real? This can't be true.
That's what we all want. We all, like I said at the beginning, we all want that dog leg in the story. We want the twist somewhere in there. Doesn't mean the twist is in there. Doesn't mean those are in the stories. But man, they make it so much more chewable. we've all been in Sunday school class where the teacher, simply reads out of the book or gives you the content, and you almost commit suicide during the class. But then you have that teacher that's able to weave something in the lesson that you didn't expect, and boom, it seizes you, and you can put your teeth in there. So yeah, it's all part of the game.
Absolutely. Tyne, your face.
Well, mine is so vanilla compared to that. So we're just going to move on.
Hey, tell us yours.
No, I'm not even. It's so vanilla. It's embarrassing. So we're just going to move to my fantastic life. I'm going to have to step up my time. We have Chris on. My gosh. Okay, Chris, lead us off. This segment is just where we get personal. So anything funny, happenings, when we talked about the kids earlier and you said they're going to kill you because you mentioned them. But anything that you want to talk about that's personal.
Oh, shoot. I was reading about some venture in Dubai, right? I was bored to tears reading about some aquaponics, whatever you call it, vegetables in Dubai, right? Which is outlandish by itself.
But it makes sense. Sure.
Well, a place wouldn't even exist if it hadn't been for a geological accident. Anyhow, right?
Here we go with history, geography and history lessons today. This is awesome. Go ahead, Chris.
I ain't making this up. I used to play in early high school on this soccer team. I was real bad. I think there were 15 guys on the team, and I was number 15, which is very honorable, right? If you're the last man in, it's almost more honorable than being the best player. Anyhow, we did this tournament, right?
I'm gonna file that one away. That might come in handy later.
Well, it's like graduating last at West Point. It's like being the last in the class.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Look at Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. He's pretty relevant now, so that you're saying there's a chance. There's still a chance for you to become a soccer star. Anyway, go ahead.
You never know, Chris. All right, go on.
We got. I was on a soccer team, right? This is basically the early '80s. And so they send us to Dubai, right? Which is this dang strip of sand back then. Ain't no buildings. I mean, no top, nothing there. So they send us to Dubai to play this tournament, and we get our tails whipped. I mean, destroyed. And I remember the coach's speech after we.
Hold on, Chris, just a second. Yeah, hold on. You were on a soccer team that went to Dubai?
No, I'm not making this up, y'all. Listen. So the coach gives us this speech after we get done and tells us we're the worst team that he's ever had, all this kind of thing. And I remember being devastated at the time, and now it's one of the greatest speeches I've ever heard, like Bad News Bears. And so on the plane ride back, y'all, all right, listen, on the plane ride back, you have to cross the Persian Gulf, right, which was terrorist central at the time. So you got 15 kids with this coach. You got 15 kids. We got our khaki pants on and starched whatever blazers that you got from your cousin that the shoulders are here. And we've all got either pristine butt cuts. I had this awesome butt cut. You could have run a plumb line off of it.
What is that?
Parted down the middle.
I mean, a butt cut.
I've never heard it
You
called
call that a bowl cut, Chris?
No. Mine was a butt cut. Mine had the part right in the middle.
Oh, you said butt. I thought you said buck.
It was a butt cut, and I'm telling y'all, you could have run a plumb line right down. It was precision. Anyhow, no. Some of the guys had the ping pong ball haircuts. The kind that you had to have a chin strap. You needed a chin strap. So anyway, all right, look. So 15 of us. They stick us in the middle of the plane. We're in 2 rows. It's a big plane. You got 3 or 4 seats on the sides. You got 4 or 5 seats in the middle. Coach, I don't know where he's sitting. Literally, I don't know where he's sitting because no doubt he's drinking somewhere on the plane. So we're sitting in the middle of the plane. One of the teams that beat us, right? One of the teams that beat us is in the back of the plane. It's a team from Egypt. They're in the very back of the plane, right back there by the commodes. We're in the middle, and the flight is on top of the Persian Gulf, right on top of it. And one of my buddies pulls out from his blazer this stink bomb, and it's about 3 or 4 inches long. It's about 1/4 of an inch wide, and it looks like a little hourglass. And inside, you can move it up and down, and the yellow liquid, right? That yellow pungent liquid.
We used to get those at the fair. We used to get those at the county fair all the time. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Hey, and they smell
so
like
bad.
hellfire, right? They smell
Oh, so bad.
primordial. Right. So, I said, fellas, look, we can get some vengeance here. Let's go take this thing back to the back. We'll break it by the Egypt team, and we'll get our revenge. And so we picked 2 of the guys. I wasn't dumb enough to go do it myself. Pointed 2 of the guys. Hey, fellas, one of y'all go to the back and kneel down and act like you're tying your shoe. Leave it in the aisle, and the other one, right? You step on it with your dress shoe. Everybody's got on church shoes, and you step on it with your dress shoe, right? Keep in mind, these shoes don't even lace up. Our shoes didn't even lace up, but whatever, just to act like it. So they go to the back. The 2 of them go to the back, and you got 13 heads in the aisle watching these guys go back. Now the plane, right, is filled with a cast of characters that looks like something got rejected from Indiana Jones movie. You got a bunch of Pakistanis, got a bunch of Filipinos, got a bunch of Shiites in robes. You got everybody in this plane. Everybody's sitting in their little demographic pockets. And here go these 2 guys to the back to the other soccer team. And sure enough, they kneel. One of them kneels down, and the other one breaks it with his heel. And then they panicked. And instead of going to the bathroom, they turned and ran back up the aisle to us.
Oh no!
No, I kid you not. By the time they got to us, right? By the time they got to us, maybe 2, maybe 3, 4 seconds max behind them roared the smell right from hell. I mean, something happened chemically in that fuselage, and the odor dissipated at a rate I can't imagine. Now we're over the Persian Gulf, and instantly, boom, the whole plane goes into terrorist mode attack, and people start screaming. Right? I mean,
oh no,
screaming. Oxygen masks are coming down. People are grabbing them. The Secret Service, pistols out, running up and down the aisles. And I'm talking about the Secret Service guys with the little nasty Hitler mustaches and the ties that go right down, just past their chest.
Chris, why are they on your plane?
And Dave,
what?
Why are they on your plane?
Everybody's running around, right? They're going nuts. So, and there's a lady like 3 aisles up, right? There's a lady like 3 aisles up that's retching and vomiting. It's that bad. So we got everything over our heads. We're laughing, all this kind of, this is the greatest thing ever, kind of thing. Y'all, listen, I mean, it got bad because the women on the plane in the Shiite robes and everything, the burqas, they're now standing up begging Allah for mercy. And the Filipino women that are Christian are standing up crying out to Jesus, and the smell ain't going anywhere. So this goes on for at least 10 minutes, and we're having the time of our lives. And all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, the captain of the co-captain, one of them, he had stripes on, comes back and points, right? He points at all of us and goes, "Hey, we know what you did. And when we land this plane, the 15 of you are going to be arrested, and you're going to spend the night in some jail in Cairo or somewhere," right? So everybody stops laughing instantly. No more. We sober up immediately. Well, everybody on the plane, as in the husbands of these women, then turn around and surround us and began to curse us in ways that, still haunt me. I'm talking like they're cursing my grandkids to the 7th generation. I'm talking, unbelievable curses. And so finally we landed. Make a long story short, we landed. And when we landed, we got off on the tarmac. There was no police. There was nobody. We walked right into the airport. And the old coach, he suddenly, gets the bull by the horn and says, "Boys, this never happened, right? This never happened." And we said, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir, coach." Of course, as soon as we got home, you tell everybody. So there it is.
Okay,
Chris,
questions.
there's so many questions.
So many questions. I get, the girls, they're on a traveling dance, they do dance competitions. And I get mad when we have to go to places like Illinois because I'm like, oh, golly, we got to go, cross state lines. Who goes to Dubai for a soccer tournament?
Yeah, especially when you're the worst player, right? Especially when
Chris, there's no way you were a terrible player on a team that went to Dubai to play soccer. That seemed like a pretty big deal.
Yeah, but like right now, we got travel teams all over the United States with these kids that play Little League. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But they're not traveling to Dubai.
I've seen some of those games. Some of those kids can't walk and talk and chew gum at the same time. So it was the same principle. But no, for real. My parents, right, at that time, they were missionaries. And so they took us over to Jordan and Arabia, and we were there at that time. So we had nobody to play. There wasn't any other team. So it was like, hey, y'all, we're going to fly y'all. We're going to fly y'all down.
Context.
So it wasn't from Arkansas. You were in.
Right. We were going back and forth. And so at that time, I was there.
Okay.
And that's how that transpired. And that's how I genuinely was a pretty dang bad player. But I'm proud of it now. I'm proud
of it. That is a wild story.
Clinton, don't you coach?
I do.
You better step it up, find yourself a tournament in Dubai and take those kids from Indiana. I'm
not even trying. I thought we were going to Cincinnati and Milwaukee this year. I thought we were really doing something. We're going to hit Kalamazoo later. I mean, for goodness sakes.
Oh my God.
Like not even any effort. Speaking of baseball, my kid his team for high school made it to the semi-state game. It's going to happen this weekend. Super proud of them. They've worked their behinds off. And, as you know, with baseball, anything can happen. They could be out of the game in the first inning, or they could walk away and head to state this year. They're officially in like the top 10 of the entire state as far as rankings go at any class. So pretty proud of them. Kind of a big deal. So it's kind of fun to watch. We'll see where it goes.
He is Clinton Jr. Colton looks just like you.
Well, thank goodness, he's got his mom's looks and kind of soften the edges. He's like I always say, he's like the Instagram filtered version of me. So like, he's like all my features got softened and improved thanks to his mom. So
hey, that boy's a masher too. Clinton's being very modest. I've seen videos of this young man, Colton, hitting.
He's good.
And he's an absolute masher. So
it's fun. They have a really good team, and he's only a sophomore, so the juniors and seniors are doing a great job, and so he's along for the ride. But it's a lot of fun.
He's only a sophomore.
Yeah, he's going to be a junior.
He's tall.
Wow.
How tall is he?
6'3", almost 6'4". Just depends on how tall the cleats are, right? Depends on who's asking and what sport we're playing.
That's hilarious. Well, congratulations to Colton. Yeah, that's super exciting. And when you texted me after when they won, I mean, I could just tell how excited you were for them. So definitely paying off, putting the work in. Mine is more, I guess, of a kind of a tease of what's coming. So apparently my husband, James, thinks he's the victim of these podcasts. And I guess I talk about him often and tell stories, and he's not there to defend himself. And so he messaged my boss because he has his number, and I guess I need to take that out of his phone. But he messaged Brian and said, when am I going to get a chance to basically defend myself? And Brian's like, what about Father's Day weekend?
There we go.
Chris, that's next weekend. And so apparently James is coming on the podcast. I have not signed off. And Brian asked, are you going to take part in this? And I said, I don't know. It's like, do I want to watch the train wreck, or do I just want to not be a part of the train wreck?
You always want to watch it. You want to watch your friends, break a stink bomb in the back of the airplane.
No, not when it's your husband. Anyway. And I asked if we got this cleared by HR, and I still haven't got an answer. So I'm hoping that something gets derailed before the train wreck happens. But I guess he's coming on the podcast next week.
He's going to tell it all. It's going to be a tell-all. That's what it's going to be.
It's going to be the most dramatic rose ceremony ever.
The problem
like-
is he has no filter, and I've noticed that it's getting. He didn't have a filter before, and now it's getting less and less. And so I'm just hoping he doesn't let his very extreme personal opinions flow, and that's what I'm
Well,
worried about.
It happens. That as you age, that filter gets to be a little thin. Next thing you know, you start telling the truth to people. It's
Words
hard.
of wisdom, Clinton. Words of wisdom. That's right, brother. That's right.
Well, this has been a good one, Chris. Appreciate you as always coming on. Super
No.
fantastic, great stories. I
Thank y'all
still
for having me.
can't
It's
believe you
not-
actually played soccer. I didn't know this about you. I learned so many things today.
I learned so many things. We could have named all of these segments "What the Sigma" today. All of them could have been that.
I'm tickled
Chris,
to be on here with y'all. So thank y'all very much.
Thank you,
Well,
Chris.
it's fun. Hey,
Appreciate it.
we want to thank everybody for watching Unscripted this week, and make sure you come back and join us again next week. Tyne gave us a good tease.
Oh my God. I'm hoping next week's not What the Sigma every single segment, but I'm going to be thinking all day about everything Chris said. And he says it's true, but I'm just like, what?
There's wild stories, which is the magic
Chris.
of Chris Bennett, right? Like he's always just in the mood, on the hunt for something that is just a little off the wall. Great stuff.
Not always just is he on the hunt, but the way he can share stories. I mean, so if you have not read some of Chris's pieces, go to AgWeb, click on Chris Bennett's name, and let me tell you, you're in for a treat. You will go down the rabbit hole extremely quickly if you start reading those stories. They're amazing.
Might even take a rabbit foot with you. I don't know.
From all of us
Crazy
at
story.
Oh my gosh. From all of us at Farm Journal, thank you for watching. I'm Tyne Morgan.
I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a good one. Thanks for joining us. You can dive into more of Unscripted on Farm Journal's YouTube channel and listen to it anywhere podcasts are found. I'm Clinton Griffiths.
And I'm Tyne Morgan. From all of us here at Farm Journal, keep it real as you live your life unscripted.
Unscripted is a production of Farm Journal Studios, where no one grows alone.